Welcome to part 3 of Dark Night of the Soul versus Shadow Material. I'm Dr. Elliott. Welcome back. So let's jump right in here. I have a few tips that maybe can help you navigate Dark Night of the Soul if that's what you feel like you're going through. And the first one is, I really want you to know that you are not broken. You're breaking open, and those are very different things. You are like a little baby chicken, like just pecking through the eggshell, right? And the eggshell's breaking, and it has to break in order for the baby chick to come out, right? And it might feel like something's breaking, but what's actually breaking is the infrastructure of your reality. And when we get stuck in old ways and stagnant energy, we have to go through these restructurings, these sort of infrastructure changes. And especially with everything happening in the world right now, I think a lot of folks are really feeling that at a very deep and expansive level. And we're to some degree experiencing it on a collective level, and probably have been for quite a few years now. But I just want you to know that it's a shedding. We're shedding the ego. It's not a failure. You haven't done anything wrong. In fact, you're doing everything right, even just by watching this video, even just by seeking to understand the experience that you're having. You are becoming, you're not losing yourself, you're becoming your true self. And so really take that in. The second thing I want to say is that you haven't lost your path. This is your path. You're exactly where you're meant to be. This part of the path, sometimes it can feel like we're lost. It can feel like we don't know which way to go. We literally are just like eyes closed, feeling our way through the dark, you know? But this is actually such a part of a sacred unfolding for you. Such a sacred unfolding. And my invitation to you is to find those moments of surrender where you can. And remember that surrender isn't giving up. It's letting go to the divine. It's letting go to the unknown. It's letting go to the part of you that is connected to God, Source, Creator, that can see beyond what our little third dimensional eyeballs can see, right? And starting to trust the knowing. It's where we go from this kind of knowing to this kind of knowing, right? And the next thing I want to say is there isn't anything for you to do, you know? The ego wants to fix it. The ego wants to solve it. The ego wants to be in control. But there isn't anything for you to fix. And there isn't anything for you to control. Control is an illusion anyway, right? The invitation here is it's a descent. You know, it's a descent into the depths of your soul. In Jungian psychology, we have this concept of like the beginning phase of therapy is where we're kind of just getting to know each other, and we're just kind of getting warmed up and understanding like what the issues are, right? And then there's this sort of deep dive into the psyche where you go really deep like this, and then you come up the other side, and this other side is kind of the integration phase. But that deep dive down here, you know, we do it in small chunks when we do shadow work, but when we do the big deep dive in our life's work, that dark night of the soul often leads to like what's at the bottom, and what comes out of that oftentimes is a deep and profound connection with our life purpose, our soul's calling, right? And but I think the part sometimes people don't understand is how important it is to surrender to the process. Somebody asked in another video, I answered a question about how long does it last, and I would say that's directly dependent on how much you resist. So letting go of the resistance to the suffering, letting go of the resistance to the pain. It's kind of like you're swimming up the river, and all of a sudden you just lay back and float and let the river take you, you know? that's kind of what it feels like. And of course, that can be scary because you don't know what's downriver, right? But this is where you and your source get really close, and source is going to tell you when to get out of the river. Hey, there's a waterfall, a really big waterfall. It's time to get out of the river and walk and hike down or whatever. But trusting that you're going to hear that voice is a big part of this journey, right? And so the next thing I want you to know is that you are not alone. There are so many of us that have been through dark night of the soul, and some folks maybe more than once. And I know it can feel very lonely and it can feel very isolating. And there's medicine in that aloneness, and there's medicine in that isolation, and it isn't forever, it's temporary. It can feel like you're never coming back, but it is a passage. It's a passageway. It's a doorway. It's a portal that leads you somewhere else, somewhere new and old at the same time. And so the next thing I want to say is listen in the silence. Like, let the silence really speak to you. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to get through that mental chatter when we're meditating that when we finally get to that place of silence, it's a little scary. We're like, oh, what's here? Nothing. Nothing and everything, right? It's where we face duality. It's where we face the void. And in the void, we find ourselves, our true selves. Yeah. In that void, there's a connection, and sometimes it takes a minute for us to find it, though. It takes a minute for us to be in the void, and again, coming to that place of non-resistance. And I remember Deepak Chopra, I want to say maybe it was in 7 Spiritual Laws of Success way back in the 90s. I read that book, and I think it was in that book, and he says something about the void and something about planting a seed. He called it the space of pure potentiality, I think. So when you get into the void and you let go of everything that you thought reality was, and then you plant the seed, and you say, Spirit, I'd like to have this connection with you. Spirit, you're planting this seed, right? I'd like to have this kind of life. I'd like to have this kind of experience, this kind of healing. I want to help people in this way, and you plant that seed. But then it's like you have to let it go. You have to detach, that place of non-attachment, right? And sometimes I think about, like, when I'm working in the garden, if we put a seed down in the dirt and we put a little dirt and a little water on it, but if we hold our finger on that seed, or we hold on to that seed, it can't get the light that it needs, and it can't get the nutrients from the soil that it needs, and it can't absorb the water that it needs because we're holding on to it so tightly. We have to let it go, And yeah, we still come back and water it, and we still make sure it gets enough sunshine, and we make sure that the soil is rich with nutrients, but we have to let go and let that little seed come to life, right? So that's trusting the wisdom of your soul, trusting the wisdom of the connection that you have with your Creator. And it's such a beautiful surrender. It's such a beautiful surrender. And the last thing I want to say is hold yourself with this beautiful sacred gentleness, like self-compassion. I think sometimes we get so caught up in, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? And if you could see yourself the way your Creator sees you, you would never again question your own worthiness. You would never again question, any kind of, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Am I a good person? Am I a bad person? You would know that you're already loved. You're already forgiven for whatever it is that you think you did wrong. And this experience that you're having is not a punishment. It's an opening. It's It's a doorway back to you. It's a doorway back to your soul. It's a doorway back to your creator. And I'm just going to ask you to be so kind and gentle with yourself as you're going through it. And so this is the end of the 3-part series of understanding soul awakening. I welcome you back to yourself. And this is Dr. Elliott, and I will see you in the next video.